What's going on, guys? Still here. Today I wanted to talk about the current state of air realistic battles, the recent devblogs, and how I feel War Thunder should take AirRB in the future. I do apologize if my voice sounds a bit off, I just moved again and I'm still getting used to everything. But if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and most importantly, share the video as well as your thoughts down below. So, let's get started. So Gaijin released a devblog yesterday about a proposal to reduce the number of players per match in air realistic battles. What this entails is a new option under the AirRB game mode that allows you to opt into smaller sized matches, with the current proposed size being 6 to 12 players per team, resulting in a match size potential of 12 to 24 instead of 12 to 32. This sounds great on paper, as the announcement of more active radar homing Fox 3 missiles was released just a few days ago. First off, they acknowledge the fact that 16v16 teams are sometimes overwhelming in terms of the number of missiles all at once, most likely alluding to 10.7 and above. They describe the mechanic as being in the same vein as night battles, where you will have a chance of getting into a smaller battle, but this relies on the matchmaker having enough players in queue. This rule will only apply to 10.0 and above, which is fine given the advancement of missiles and their engagement distances increase above 10.7. We see early radar missiles as low as 9.3 with the F-3H Demon and the MiG-21S, but mainly SAR missile combat starts at BR 10.0. This in lies the problem: a chance isn't good enough. Not everybody wants to even engage in the idea of a 16v16. Those who have played War Thunder prior to top tier being a 16 on 16 will remember how missiles were far more manageable. Although, keep in mind, these missiles at the time were less advanced, the mechanics were far less refined, and the overall flow of air battles was completely different. So, for example, someone on the forums raised an interesting point to me. They remember when 4 A7s could easily end a match by ground pounding. But I replied with the fact that the A7D ending a match very quickly was a completely different issue. It was a product of air spawns as well as ground units being tied to ticket bleed, which to this day, in my opinion, should be removed. Now, as for their completely schizophrenic excuse as to why they prefer 16v16, I said that the Vietnam and Gulf War pilots didn't have a third-person view in name tags either. Furballs were miles long. The stories you hear about are condensed down to entertainment format. Bolo took place across hundreds of miles, if not more, of airspace. There is nothing interesting about 16v16 above 10.0, even more so above 12.0. The closest thing we ever got to anything like that was the battles of Korea, which is where 16v16 should really end. I mean no offense by this, but there has to be a shred of common sense when it comes to analyzing what we can gather from historical events and first-person accounts. I will agree that attackers ending matches very quickly was a problem. Of course, as I replied to them, I made it known that AirRB, as I said, was completely different, even just a year ago as compared to now. But that was a product of a problem that far preceded missile combat. I'm not sure if this person remembers when the Horton 229 was the pinnacle of the AirRB cast problem. Even before the Horton, there were examples of this. However, Gaijin has made multiple changes to the AirRB game mode to combat this, among other issues attack jets and some jet bombers caused. Jets like the Valtor were notorious for abusing their bomber spawn combined with missiles, which were found on the Israeli Valtor, giving it the ability to be an easy air spawn worthy heavy fighter. The A4 Skyhawk was also a great example of this, as well as the F-105 Thunderchief, but I could go on for hours. Air spawns have been removed for almost every single attacker. I think only the Bomber class has dedicated air spawns on most maps, with few exceptions, obviously like the Valtor. I don't really see what there is to gain from 16v16 above 10.0. Most of those extra players are just bomb rushing and failing most of the time anyways. Gaijin indicated they were looking into lowering rewards once again in a forum clarification post that I will get to later. Another major issue with air battles as it stands is the spotting system. It is not kept up with the speed and the engagement ranges of modern aircraft. The spotting system used to actually work for top tier because your radar was used as an enhancement of the spotting range. Ironically, everyone kinda hated it and forgot about it because at the time we didn't have missiles like the AIM-7F and the R-27ER. We were still using very basic BVR missiles that didn't have the kind of range that a spotting system like that at the time made sense to have. What would partially fix the spotting system as it stands currently is an increase in the base range of the awareness skill, say 5 km stock, 7 aced. These numbers of course could be debated. Next, the aircraft's radar functioning as an amplifier of the keen vision stat, meaning aircraft beyond 10 to 12 or 15 km aced would have a red blip pop up. Aircraft within 15 kilometers would then have the aircraft type and nickname displayed, same as it is currently. Think of it as an assured acquisition range of the target. You know it's an enemy because of your radar, but in BVR, you must rely on the RWR of your aircraft and other clues such as the behavior of the missile being fired at you to figure out what type of aircraft it is. This all leads me to my next point about air battles and how over the years it's slowly lost its identity. Gaijin has perfected the vicious cycle of selling a problem and a solution. I won't lie, the bomber attacker problem has persisted as long as the game's been around, but the main reason for the attacker side was tying ground unit AI to ticket bleed. As for bombers, Gaijin had taken steps over the years to reduce the impact of strategic bombers by removing the airfield endgame kill condition, which became a serious issue due to the TU4's initial battle rating, tankiness of its damage model, and the potent killing potential of its AI gunners. Jet bombers also reflected this issue, and their ability to climb to extreme altitudes with no real interceptors in the game at the time created a seriously toxic experience. Obviously now we have Mach-capable jets that can carry 2 to 3 times the bomb load of those old subsonic jet bombers, so Gaijin's reaction to this was to create respawnable bases that only cut a portion of the enemy's team's tickets. Of course, various economic changes to base and ground target earnings have also occurred over the years. This still does not deter players from purchasing a bomb truck premium. To further understand where I'm coming from, let's rewind a bit. It's 2020, the new power update has just been released. Gaijin sold the VTOL gimmick with the blatantly overpowered, overperforming and undertiered Harrier GR1 and Yak-38. Obviously, the Harrier stole the show, but the Yak-38 was no slouch. Even more so when they allowed the Yak-38 to carry 4 R60s instead of only 2. With time, higher ranks were added and the Harrier GR1 was put into its place by being so above BR that it couldn't defend itself, having no flares. Gaijin's next blunder was selling undertiered, overpowered, all aspect slinging attackers, the A-10A early and the Su-25K. Gaijin knew the A-10 would be better than the Frogfoot from a pure Fox 2 count, so they sold us a premium limited to 2 Sidewinders, making you grind the actual tech tree A-10A that carries 4. The Frogfoot is no slouch when it comes to its speed over the A-10 and the potent dogfighting potential of the R-60M. However, you don't need to worry about dogfighting when you can just delete Korean-era jets with ease, while carrying enough countermeasures to flare every single missile the enemy team has. Fast forward to 2023 and 2024, where we have premiums like the F-4S being sold and used to purely bomb truck, because missiles are hard or something, I don't know. Sadly, a lot of these modern systems require more knowledge than what most newer players can afford to learn before pressing purchase. So, Gaijin sold us a problem in the form of the F-4S bomb truck, yet they also offered a solution, the MiG-23ML, which is borderline as good as the 23MLD. With the advent of the new RWR and radar band mechanics, the MiG-23ML using the R-24R has become a silent killer. The F-4S cannot know that an R-24R is being fired at it unless you specifically see that missile being launched at you. Yes, I know there was more than just 2 premiums added that update. I know, settle down, relax, I'm just using the 23 as an example. Okay, what I'm trying to get at is that the game is ruled by premiums ran by at the very least uninformed to the very most uneducated new players. What is he doing? The Su-27 is literally behind him. What? Bro, what is he doing?
I have no idea, I left.
What the fuck? Now, I may get flack for stat shaming in air quotes, but look, every time you see somebody fly an Araby that is so incredibly stupid or borderline flying like a bot, you might as well just check their stats just to see. And as we can see with this guy that I just showed in the clip, he is negative in every single top tier jet. I mean, come on, being negative in something like the F-15A, that is incredibly sad. Now, obviously, in comparison to my own stats, of course, I play mainly ground nowadays. I haven't really ever touched top tier jets, and the ones that I have all been test drives where I've only played them for a few games because, quite frankly, top tier air is pretty fucking boring. Also, rather than sticking to 1 or 2 specific vehicles or nations, I of course do play a little bit of everything. So for somebody who is a bit of an all-rounder when it comes to vehicles in War Thunder, I would say that I do have pretty good stats. I don't play War Thunder for hundreds of hours like I used to back in 2015, 2016, but you get the point. My point is I've played the game long enough to be able to tell the difference between somebody who's good at the game, somebody who's just having a bad day, and somebody who is blatantly a bot or just flies in a straight line and bombs all day. This may seem like a story as old as time, but back in 2014, you couldn't buy a premium that gave you full access to BR 9.0 jet battles. Better yet, a jet that outclassed its competition in every way possible because Gaijin was too scared to put that aircraft in its place for its dedicated role. I fear the game has become nothing more than a glorified 3D military vehicle gallery with the actual gameplay taking a back seat, relying on buying each rank's staple aircraft or tank and playing that passively instead. Gaijin dropped the ball with RBEC. Realistic Enduring Confrontation, which was also known as Historical Belligerence, was the best mode Gaijin ever created with the War Thunder sandbox. Unfortunately, it was created at the wrong time. Only held down by its historical battles, which had very little aircraft to choose from, sometimes being far too unbalanced for fun gameplay. Yes, it was great they were trying to give us full historical matches, but that only limited the mode's potential. It received flack for this problem. Personally, I didn't mind it, but it was pretty bad for some battles and certain scenarios. Also, at the time, War Thunder's concurrent player base was, at peak, maybe 50,000. Okay, editing still here? Well, I was actually trying to go find concrete information about the player counts at this point in time with the game. Jafafa, who plays on Twitch, you should go check him out, actually pointed out to me that I should go look at old YouTube videos to see rather than trying to find something like an actual chart or use the Steam charts, because I don't want to use the Steam charts that only shows obviously half the people playing the game at this point in time, you know, the Steam versus the actual total amount. So I decided to give it a try, and I found an old video of flies from, oh god, how many years ago? 8 years ago. This is 8 years ago. Now, the title up in the top is kind of blocking it off, and this hangar is giving me an absolute nostalgia trip. But if you look up at the top left, you can see that there is 23,000 players online. I said in my script and in my voiceover, my commentary, at peak maybe 50,000. I wasn't even close. It's half of that. So if you look, the total battles are as well, which Shiz pointed out to me, is the total battles were 636. So honestly, not that much more than what goes on nowadays. We maybe have like 1,500 battles at most. So that's actually a pretty interesting thing, is that even though the player count has more than quadrupled since, you know, this point in time, there is not really that many more battles going on, which I don't really know the exact reason for that, whether it's just the game's actual gameplay not being as interesting, or in people being more serious about the game back then, or what. I don't actually know the reason for that, but I thought that this was actually pretty interesting. Also, I'm going to just rewind to the beginning here.
Look how many fucking players are here, guys. Holy crap.
Oh look, there's Napalm's username. Yeah, there was a lot of players in EC back then.
Insanity.
That is crazy. See, I don't have a problem with things like 16 on 16 in top tier. Well, I do have a problem with it in top tier jets. But what I'm saying is I don't have a problem with 16v16. This is more than 16 players per match. This is when it's 32 people per team, but I had accidentally said per match here. This was War Thunder at its peak for me personally. To be able to have 64 people in one large airspace and props doing sorties. Of course, the matches probably ended pretty quickly because that was a lot of players. But this is when War Thunder, personally for me, I believe when War Thunder peaked, was when War Thunder took advantage of its sandbox and kind of went all out. Also, of course, here there are, for simulator battles, there was all 5 ranks at the time, which is similar to how Sim is set up now. And for RB, there was only a test for rank 3, which is BR 3.3 to 4.7. And the BR ranges at the time, of course, the game has changed a lot over the years, but this was not very
fair, I would say. There was a lot of variability in it, but how EC has turned out now nowadays just goes to show you that the way that Sim has it set up now is far better than even what they were doing in the tests way back then.
The game just couldn't support that stretch in players across all modes, so for this reason, RBEC was removed. However, over time, Sim Battles kept the EC mode going. It continued being worked on until SimEC developed a BR bracket system, which rotates every other day to accommodate every BR range. There were some issues with BR balancing of aircraft and the old SP system and a few other things of course, but for the most part, SimEC is in the best spot it's ever been. Yet Gaijin time and time again has refused or outright ignored the call for RBEC to make a return. Funny enough, I made a prediction, although probably not as public as it should have been. I said it on stream maybe once or twice, but I don't think I ever put it into an actual video. But I predicted AirRB would get to a point that is so bad people would genuinely consider the return of RBEC. It was also around the time that Fox 3s would become a serious part of air combat at the higher tiers, and well, look where we are now.
Look, what made EC good was the ability to join and leave whenever you wanted to, a form of playing at your own pace. Persistent match that allows you to respawn as much as you can. Fulfilling any role you wish is the best experience I've ever had in War Thunder. Instead of arguing over bullshit problems with standard air battles because of the effect attackers and bombers had, they could be far more rewarding to play in EC, without griefing the experience of everyone else and cutting matches short. Even with the economic changes to EC, I would much rather take less earnings if it means I don't walk away from a 3-hour play session feeling frustrated. Hell, I'd spend more money too. I'm sure everyone else would. You know what the best part is? If you don't want to play EC, you don't have to. If you prefer the current state of AirRB, by all means, have a blast. But War Thunder is limiting its sandbox and overall quality by sticking to its current status quo.
It's quite simple. More than ever has it been clear how it should work initially. Slap that shit into the event tab, label it realistic enduring confrontation, and use the same bracket rules as SimEC. It's a great baseline to work with. I would also like to see Heli PvE receive some treatment as it has the potential to really outclass what Heliborn tried to do. Gaijin has the sandbox, the players, and the support. They have no excuses to not excel at creating the best game they can. My friend Will made 2 videos dedicated to air battles and RBEC as a whole, with proposals for a large variety of geographical locations for EC missions to take place. Both of these videos are linked in the description, so please go check them out.
I had originally planned to talk about Gaijin's dynamic BR system that they were implementing, the forum posts and devblog that followed, but that's been a bit of a roller coaster, so that deserves its own separate video that I'm not going to pursue further in this one.
So what you need to take away from this video is Air Realistic is constantly being torn in different directions. In their attempt to expand the map size, they increased team sizes, which could not handle the new generation of air combat and the missile technology found therein. Furballs are boring for most players, even if they don't speak about it publicly 24/7. So Gaijin decided to make it an option to actually have a better experience at top tier. The spotting system has not been crafted for such speeds and distances like those found at top tier. Gaijin tried slapping the EC style maps into standard air battles instead of just bringing back RBEC. They worked on SimEC and they have laid a great groundwork. At this point, it's literally just a matter of control preference. Not everybody wants to play Sim. I want my years-long AirRB experience to have something a little bit more. Instead of trying to make standard AirRB into a mode that pleases everyone, they have made a mode that pleases no one. You may say you enjoy it, but we all know that there's something that bothers you out there, whether it's people bombing bases all the time, the spotting system, or under-tiered aircraft, over-tiered aircraft. You get my point. Gaijin has sold top-tier premiums that are used as nothing more than glorified bomb trucks, because the gameplay is so complex and bad at the same time, that they would rather fly in straight lines pressing spacebar than actually learn what their radar does. RBEC would offer a large map with more targets for these zomber players, dragging them away from the quick and low-earning standard air battle, while still having enough battle space for fighters and interceptors to have a role as well, leaving standard air battles to focus on fighter-only combat. This cannot happen without the return of RBEC and the reduction in team size of standard air battles. Of course, I don't mean to frame RBEC as only a solution for high tier. I would love to play props again with a squad of friends going around in formation on a larger battle space, or taking a flight of IL-2s on an attack run. EC offers prop tier attackers and bombers to have enough space to not just power through the enemy team every single match as well. EC also prevents bombers from ending a game with only a few bases destroyed, something that took Gaijin years to fix in standard air battles. Like I said, the basic framework is there for EC to function just fine as it stands, only leading to improvements in the future. Lastly, Gaijin's dynamic BR system is going to further wreck both air and ground if it is allowed to fester in its current state. Personally, I have no hope given how long it's taken for Gaijin to acknowledge smaller team sizes. It's been years of complaints on both the CC side and the community side. Gaijin is out of touch once again. I'm honestly surprised there hasn't been a second Steam review blunder yet, but we will have to see. I urge all of you watching to please read into their devblogs beyond the headline, sharing it and your perspective with the communities you interact with. Make your voices heard, because apparently some people fail to grasp the concept that mostly everyone disagrees with this direction, or is purposely left in the dark by taking what the headline says as gospel. Anyways guys, that's pretty much it from me today. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe and share the video, drop a comment down below with your thoughts, and as always, I'm Steel, and I'll catch y'all later. Peace.